Today we are going to go through step by step on our Chapter 6 study guide. Make sure you are paying attention, following along, checking, correcting, and listening for all of my tips. The first two, we are going to write a positive or negative integer that represents the situation. If we lose 4 yards in football, the integer that would represent that would be a -4. And if you find a $5 bill, that would be a +5. Numbers 3 and 4, we're finding the absolute value. Remember, the absolute value is the distance from 0 on the number line. So the absolute value of 4 would be 4. It is 4 spots away from 0 on the number line. And the absolute value of -10 is 10. It is 10 spots away from 0 on the number line. Remember, the absolute value is always positive. Okay, number 5, we're going to graph the integer and its opposite. Listen, I want all the number line labeled, okay? So I'm going to write all tick marks are to be labeled, okay? So I'm going to put 0 in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. The whole thing is going to be labeled. Here's +2 and put a 2 above it. -2, put a negative above it. Okay, so 2 and its opposite. Yours should look just like that. We are comparing number 6, -5 is going to be greater than -7. -7 is further to the left on the number line, so it is less. When we're comparing with absolute value, remember to solve the absolute values first. So the absolute value of -3 is 3. The absolute value of -6 is 6. Now we know that 3 is less than 6. Numbers 8 and 9, we are ordering the integers from least to greatest, which means from the left side of the number line to the right side. We know that we should be starting with our negative numbers first. -2 would be further to the left, and then -1, and then 0, +4, +5. And number 9, I'm going to circle all the negatives. -8 would be further to the left, and then -2, and then -1, and then 0, 4, and 5. Okay. Number 10 and 11, we are going to graph the number and its opposite, and we are going to label the entire number line. Okay. Okay, so -2 1/4, it's positive, would be +2 1/4. I'm going to put 0 in the middle, and I don't think I'm going to be able to go by fourths and get everything on there, like my denominator says, so I'm going to go by halves. So 1/2, 1 whole, 1 1/2, 2 wholes, 2 1/2. Okay. And then -1/2, -1 whole, -1 1/2, -2, -2 1/2. Okay, -2 1/4. Remember, 1 out of 4 quarters. This is the same as -2.25. So that's going to be in between -2 and 2 1/2, because -2 1/2 is -2.50, right? So right in between -2 and -2 1/2 would be -2 1/4, and its opposite would be +2 1/4. So right in between 2 and 2 1/2 again would be 2 1/4 or 2 1/4. Okay. Number 11, I have 0.25, which is 25 hundredths, or 1/4. Okay, since this is the same as a fourth, I'm going to make my tick marks out of 1/4. So 1/4, 2/4 is the same as a half. 3/4, 1 whole, 1 1/4. And its opposite, -1/4, -2/4 is the same as -1/2, -3/4, -1 whole, -1 1/4. Okay, so 0.25 would be right here, and its opposite would be -0.25. Okay. Okie dokie. On the next side, complete the statement using less than or greater than. Show your thinking. So we don't want just a guess, less than or greater than. We want to see your thinking. Remember, you can use cross products to help you. 5 times a -7 is -35. 8 times a -4 is -32. -35 would be further to the left. So -7/8 is less than -4/5. Number 13, you can think about money, owing somebody $1.18, owing somebody $1.25, or you can turn them into fractions, -1 and 1/1800ths, -1 and 2500ths. The negative ones are the same. So if you do 100 times a -18, it's just -18 with 2 zeros, or -25 with 2 zeros. -2,500 is way further to the left. Okay, so -1 and 1/1800ths is greater than -1 and 2500ths. Okay, you can show your work by putting them on a number line or by doing cross products. The table shows the elevation of 4 divers. Which diver dives down the furthest? Okay, so if you're thinking of a vertical number line, the furthest, if this is 0, okay, you're going to have -5 and then -8 and then -10. The furthest would be -18. Okay. Number 15, a small crab. I'm going to go ahead and label these, so I'm showing my work. A small crab has burrowed -3/5 inches into the sand. It's down inside the sand. The large crab has burrowed a -5/9 inch into the sand. Which crab has burrowed further down into the sand? Okay, so which one is deeper? Okay, so again, showing all work, I can do 9 times a -3 is -27. 5 times a -5 is -25. -27 is further to the left. So the small crab is deeper than the large crab. Okay. All right, number 16, write an ordered pair corresponding to the point A. Remember, you always travel on the x-axis first, the y-axis second. So we're going to the right 3, +3, down 4, -4. So this is going to be +3, -4. B. We're going to go to the left 2, that's -2, down 3, which is also negative. So I have -2, -3. C, I'm going to go to the right 1, that's +1, and up 3, which is +3. So I have 1, 3. And then D, I'm going to the left 1, which is -1. And I'm not going up or down at all. I'm staying, so 0, -1, 0. Okay, number 17. Mrs. Gormel's checking account balance is a -$22. She deposits, which means she puts into her account $95. So we're going to add $95 to her account. And we want to know what is her balance now. So I've got a -22, and we're going to add 95. This is a negative, this is a positive. Those are different signs, so I'm going to find the difference, which means I'm subtracting the two numbers to get 73. And then there are way more positives, so my answer is going to be a positive 73. Okay, on the next page. The water level of a pond, it decreases, meaning it's going down 3 inches per day for 4 days. After day 4, how much had the water decreased in all? If it's decreasing 3 inches per day, we're going to write that as a -3. -3, it goes down -3 inches every single day for 4 days. Okay, so -3 times 4 would be a -12. So on the 4th day, it has gone down 12 inches. We're going to represent it as an integer, so it's -12. Okay. For 19 and 20, we are plotting and labeling the ordered pair in the coordinate plane. Name the quadrant of the point. So we're going to label x at -3, +2, -3 means to the left 3, +2 means up 2. This is x. And then we're going to name the quadrant. Remember, this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. I wish for you to use the Roman numerals and do not just write 2. We're going to write it correctly. It is in quadrant 2. Okay. 0.5. 0.5 is going to be in between the origin and 1. So it's going to be like right here. So 0.5. To the right 0.5, down -2.5, which would be in between -2 and -3. So this is y. And again, quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. Okay. 21 and 22 are similar, but the wording is different, so please pay close attention. We're going to plot the point 3, -2. I would stop right there and do that first. We're plotting the point 3, -2, which means to the right 3, +3, down 2. So here's my original point. Now it says reflect that point across the x-axis. Here's the x-axis, so we're jumping across that axis. So since it is 2 below the x-axis, we're going to go to above the x-axis. Let's see, reflect it across the x-axis and label the reflected point A. And now we're going to reflect the original 3, -2 across the y-axis and label it B. So to reflect it across the y-axis, you're going to jump across the y. So it is 3 to the right of y. So we're going to go 3 to the left of the y-axis and label it B. Okay. 22 is a little differently because of this key word followed by. Okay, so we're not going to go back to the original point this time. We're going to first plot the point 1, -3. So to the right 1, down 3. We're going to reflect it across the x-axis. So instead of going 3 below, we're going to go 3 above. Reflected across the x-axis followed by reflecting across the y. So now we're going to go back to this new point right here and now reflect that new point across the y. So instead of going 1 to the right of y, we're going to go 1 to the left of y. Label the final destination point C. So you need to be looking for that followed by. And that tells us that we're going to continue to reflect. We're not going back to the original. Okay, next page. The points A, B, C are the vertices of a triangle. Plot and label the points, and then find the area. -2, +2, left 2, Positive 2 would go up 2. We're labeling that A. B is at negative 2, left 2, negative 4, down 4. We are labeling that B. C is at positive 2, right 2, negative 4, down 4, labeling that C. They all need to be labeled. And then you need to connect your dots, make your triangle, and now we're going to find the area, okay? The day of your test, it will tell you the formula, 1/2 base times height. So now we're going to count the base, 1, 2, 3, 4 units. Count the height, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units, and plug them into the formula. The base is 4, the height is 6. Remember, we do base times height first. 4 times 6 is 24. Half of 24 is 12. We're going to label it units squared. Okay. Number 24 and 25, we're going to plot the numbers on the number line. Be sure to label your benchmark numbers. Remember, benchmark numbers are 1/2 or 1/4 or 3/4. Those are types of benchmark numbers, okay? So if you look at this first one, we have a negative 2.5. There's that 3/4. 1.8, that would be almost 2, and a negative 1/2 would, again, be another benchmark number, okay? Most of these are half, and I need to go from negative 2.5 to positive 2.5. Looking at my numbers would be furthest to the left. So I'm going to go ahead and go by halves here. So 1/2, 1 whole, 1.5, 2 wholes, 2.5. Make sure we are labeling the entire number line. Then we can plot our points. So negative 2.5 is here. Be sure you put a tick or a big dark circle and label it. Positive 3/4 is going to be in between 1/2, which is 0.50, and 1 whole. Put an extra tick mark in there, big dark circle, labeling it 3/4. 1 and 8/10 is going to be right in between 1.5 and 2, closer to 2. Put a tick mark, big dark circle, label it 1.8. And negative 1/2, we have that one on the line as well. Circle, and negative 1/2, labeling it. Okay, so you are making your number line very detailed. Okay, this 25, I have a negative 3 and 2/10, negative 3 and 7/10, negative 4, and negative 3 and 5/10. So all of these are between negative 3 and negative 4. So I'm going to make my number line accordingly. So since these are all in tenths besides negative 4, I'm going to start counting down and do negative 3 and 9/10, negative 3 and 8/10, negative 3 and 7/10, 6/10, 5/10, 4/10, 3/10, 2/10, 1/10, and negative 3. So guys, take your time and kind of plot out, think about what those tick marks should be before you just start throwing numbers on the number line, okay? You have to look at your numbers before you try to figure out what should my number line be going by. Okay, negative 3.2. Be sure you label everything. Negative 3 and 7/10. Negative 4. And negative 3.5. Okay. Okay, evaluate. Here is our review over integers. This first one, +5, -3, those are different signs, so I'm going to find the difference, which means I'm subtracting the two numbers. There's more positive, so it's going to be a +2. -10, +4, those are different signs, so I'm going to subtract the two numbers to get 6. 10 negatives, 4 positives, so there's more negatives. Number 11, double negative turns into a positive. This is 11 plus 6, same sign, find the sum. They're all positives. This one's double negative turns into a positive, so it's -22 plus 12. Those are different signs, so we're going to find the difference. I'm going to subtract to get 10. There's more negatives, so it would be a -10. Okay, next row, I have a -3, -4, same sign, find the sum, more negatives. This next one is multiplication, so a positive times a negative. When you have one of each sign, your answer is always negative, and 8 times 6 is 48. -9 plus a -21, same sign, find the sum. They're all negatives. You should have a -30. And then you've got a division one, 2 negatives cancel and form a positive. 18 divided by 3 is 6. Okay. Alrighty. Last for fair game review. Number 26, remember the first number always goes on the inside. 16.5 goes on the outside. Remember, you may not have a number on the outside or a decimal on the outside. You have to move it once on the outside, which means you have to move it once on the inside. If you don't see it, it's behind the number. So you're still moving it once, and you're putting a 0 in that placeholder. 165 does not go into 3 or 39. So it'll go in twice, which is 330. Subtract and get 66. Bring down that last 0. And obviously that's double. And 4 times will go in evenly. So when you bring this straight up, it doesn't matter. It's just 24. All your work must be shown. Greatest common factor of 24 and 60. We normally use a division ladder. I'm going to do 6. 2 goes into both numbers. 3 goes into both numbers. If 2 and 3 goes in, 6 goes in. 6 goes into 24 4 times. 6 goes into 60 10 times. We're not done. Those two numbers are still even. So I know that 2 goes into both numbers evenly. 2 goes into 4 twice. 2 goes into 10 5 times. Nothing else goes into 2 or 5, so we are done. Remember, you're multiplying your numbers straight down to find your greatest common factor. If you were to have to find least common multiple, you would multiply down and around and make that L. Number 28 is from last chapter, 25% of 52. Remember, your percentage goes over 100, percents go over 100, is over of. So it says of 152. So 152 will go on the bottom. I don't know my is, so my is will go on top. Okay, I'm going to erase that so I've got some room to work. 100 times x is 100x. Yes, you're going to solve without a calculator this time. 152 times 25. Okay, we get 3,800. And then we're going to divide by 100 to get x by itself. So 3,800 goes on the inside. We're dividing by 100. So it goes in 3 times. And 100 into 800 goes 8 times. So x is 38. Okay. Okay. Last one, area of a parallelogram is base times height. The base is 15. The height, straight vertical, is 8. So then I'm going to do base times height to get 120 square inches. Okie dokie. If you have any questions, come see me prior to the test.